Hi, I'm John Carter, the broker and owner at RE/MAX River City.
That's Shane Parent, associate broker and owner, RE/MAX River City.
So we got some questions from our agents that we thought we'd do a video to answer, and a lot of them are around seller's market activity, kind of multiple offers, that type of thing, which is awesome. We're seeing a lot more of that. Even the other weekend, just in the one weekend, there was 10 multiple offers in our office that I was made aware of because of questions or having to step in to assist. So it's great to see that in the market, but we see there's a lot of confusion because if you haven't been selling since at least maybe 2005, you may have seen a market like this that we're starting to lean towards. So first off, one of the main questions we get asked is, how do I create multiple offers on my listings? And so sellers want to hear that too, right? They want to know how do I get 2-3 offers on my listing? So what's the best way to kind of answer that question or to create the environment for multiple offers?
Yeah, I mean, obviously market awareness is important, right? You want to have some indicators that, hey, the last 2 properties like this went into multiple offers, sold in, unconditional, really quickly, that type of thing. So the awareness and market.
Or really like a lack of inventory in that area.
Totally.
So you might have an area where there's been, or a building where there's a lot of demand, but there's been no sales because there's been no listings.
Yeah.
And there's people looking for it.
It shouldn't be a super surprise that this is an appealing home for people, right? So that's first off. Secondly, then I would think is pricing it accordingly. And so obviously there's 3 pricing strategies. You can price it high and hope to negotiate down. Fair market value would be a second choice, and then slightly below market value to create buzz, create that frenzy. And so I think if you're going in with that mindset, you can be more prepared to do so. Then it's time, right? So if you have some build up, you have some pre-promotion or what have you, and there's interest building up, that can help with your timing. I like a strategy where you have almost a few days of showing time and a scheduled presentation for offers, right? So even if you're, as an agent, looking to potentially generate some leads, I think is nice to do, but also to give the property enough time and exposure that you can get multiple interest in there.
Yeah,
right?
You'll see it. It's still been happening in GTA area, even in around Vancouver in certain price points the last while. But we experienced it in Edmonton when we were selling back in kind of 05 to 07, where the market had less than 1,500 listings and there was tons of buyer interest. Properties were literally appreciating weekly. And so you'd have to revise your pricing, in some cases adjusting your price up if it had been on the market a little while. You're getting lots of showings, but a lot of people there's a way to manage it. And so you can set it up for success. Know that we're going to allow a week for showings to happen, and then we're going to present offers on this date. Now, it's important to know as a broker that your responsibility is to present offers as soon as they're received in a timely manner to the seller, but you can manage that expectation of buyers and other realtors' interest that we've presented it to the seller and they're happy to have received it, but they're not going to respond until they wait and see if there's any other interest, right? So so a lot of ways, and I think the other big thing is setting it up to be easy to show and show really well. So that's part of like the prepping conversation, the pre-marketing. I mean, you might prep a property a month before you're putting it on to have it cleaned and decluttered and depersonalized and then staged, any little repairs done. In some cases, people do a pre-home inspection. So that's been very common in the GTA market, where they have the property pre-inspected and with the home inspector, and they leave the home inspection out on the table, and everybody coming through basically gets an opportunity to look at it, or they have a digital version available, and they're making the offer based on that information kind of once they've seen it. So make it easy to show. Another way I've seen people do it is they launch the listing on maybe a Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday, and their clients, the sellers, are out of town for that whole weekend. So they can just have as many showings as much as possible that whole weekend, and then they're presenting offers on Monday at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock.
You can have all day open house kind of a strategy.
Do open houses both weekends for public interest as well as realtor interest and clients through them. So make it easy to show, price it right to attract lots of interest, and then know your market to make sure it's actually a property that you anticipate would go multiples, and know that you can discuss that strategy with a seller and still adjust. You can launch it that way, and if it doesn't go multiple in the first week or two, you bump the price up, you readjust how you're marketing, you readjust your strategy.
But I would say one other thing that's pretty important, and a lot of agents don't think about it, because when they get an offer, they're so excited and they don't want to drop this precious little offer. Call the other agents that have viewed the property.
100%.
Double check, make sure that there's interest or not. Some buyer's agents aren't ready for a seller's market and don't anticipate or adjust and react quickly. They let their clients sleep on it, or they're looking at other properties, and then they find out later that it went pending, and then, oh my God, my client missed out on that property. They
would have. What we hear often is like they would have bought it, or we get, I call it frustrations after a multiple offer of the other agent saying, well, we would have paid that price. Well, you should have then. Yeah, you should. And we'll talk. We have some separate Q&A and sort of some separate videos talking about how to successfully win at multiple offers. But I think the main thing, when representing a seller, is go back and contact all the other parties. Yeah. And a lot of times it might be courtesy on their short list, and that encourages them to make an offer.
It helps the buyer's agent motivate their buyers and get them in action as well, right? Yeah, so it's a collaborative thing, right? So
and the other one is we've seen, so I guess,
great question.
That one. Yeah, great question. So the other one we've seen is how to win at multiple offers. So you represent a buyer. We've had this a lot lately. We've had 2 or 3 where people have lost out on 3 different multiple offers. The type of property they're looking for, the area they're looking for is hyper competitive, and so the buyer really starts to get frustrated, right? They keep losing, and so how do you win at multiple offers?
Yeah, so
representing the buyer.
Totally, great question, and absolutely frustrating. Sometimes it's just limited to budget, and that's unfortunate, right? There's not a lot that you can do about it, but there is some things. So we can talk about presenting in person, which is not something that is widely practiced right now, but is a great opportunity, especially you as an agent, if you're a good salesperson in that way, where you can really sell your buyers and present the offer in a way that's that looks great to the seller.
The one I always tell and share the story with is one of my old buyer's agents. She was, we do personality selling, which is a plug for our other videos on the personality selling side, but really understanding the personalities of people and how to sell. So she was a strong blue, which means like she was a high emotional quotient, very feelings motivated person. She used to win in multiple offers, and we're talking in the very heat of our appreciating market, with like lower prices, less attractive offers, because she sold the story of the buyer so well that the seller had a vested emotional interest in those people, that I want those people to have this home. Yeah. And so acknowledge that some listing agents won't let you do that. No. You can present that to them, but they might not relay it on. But I think, a good example I had a couple weekends ago was a multiple offer with a couple of agents in our office, and it was on one of the agents repped a buyer, and it was their listing. So they both presented with a letter from the buyer explaining the story, complimenting the seller.
The love letter, we call it.
The love letter. And so the ways you can level that up is attach a photo of the family. And obviously all this is done with the buyer's permission, but if they're drafting up an email for you, writing a little letter, you put on letterhead for them, attach photo of their family, or even better, these days, get them to shoot a quick video or on their own phone and send it to you, or you shoot a quick video while you're writing the offer with them. Yeah. Really compliment the seller on the home, talk about what they're looking to enjoy in that home, like the memories they're looking to form in that home. The seller's going to identify with that, and they're most likely selling because they're at a different phase of life now. Yeah. We see this often with people with young kids or young families starting out. So that can be a really good strategy. The love letter. And when to kind of present in person is another good question with that, right? So I think presenting in person is critical in certain instances, and then it can backfire in others. And so when to do it is, if your clients are really wanting that property, ask the question of the seller's agent, ask when they're presenting, right? So if they're presenting at 7 o'clock on Monday, you let your buyers know, and then ask, are we able to present in person? We would like to present in person. Bring your clients in the car, or have them available on cell phone and electronic signature. And so if they're sitting there and they've got 3, 5, 10 offers that you've seen in past, and 2 of them are presented in person, again, it's the emotional connection. They're going to remember that person. They're going to remember that story.
Yeah.
You're selling it, and when you present your offer, you present it in a neutral way, selling the benefits of your offer, but then let them know, if you're going to counter any of these offers, my buyers are outside in the car.
Yeah.
My buyers are like a phone call away. They're waiting for my call right now, and they're open to...
You just need a small adjustment on this. Let's get that taken care of.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I would think about too is just remember that you're really trying to sell your clients and work with the seller's offer and what they would be willing to accept. So a few just real basic stuff that some people don't think about. Possession date. Sure, line up the possession date as best you can with what the seller's looking for. Ask the seller's agent, hey, what do these guys need? Would this work? Hey, my buyers can be flexible. We'll put this date in, but if you need any adjustment, we're willing to work with that.
Well, I think a big thing is like, and don't just go off the MLS highlight sheet. I see people doing that a lot lately.
Have the conversation.
So before, as soon as your buyers say they're interested, call the listing agent and have that conversation. I have an offer for you that we're going to be drafting. Ask the questions in the background you need to know to like set up to win. Is there any other offers on the property? If there are, when are you presenting? And if there are you representing any of the buyers? We want your broker to step in and handle those.
Deposit. Have a strong deposit. Show that your client's willing to put some skin in the game, put their money on the line, whatever that is. It's refundable until the conditions are removed, but show that they're financially secure and in a position to close. You put $1,000 deposit on, it just makes it look weak, right?
Yeah.
And so that perception and that emotional feeling is super important, right?
Yeah.
Another thing to consider is price. Where do you go at price, right? If the home is listed at $300, but similar ones we're selling at $325, $350, well, educate your buyers. Be prepared that you might go over the asking price.
Yeah,
right?
100%. I think it starts with not being, like you said, overly excited or overly anxious as soon as the buyer expresses interest to offer. Our job as a professional is to say, great, now next step, let's do a CMA to determine fair market value of this property. A lot of times we've seen them where, even in the last few years, where listings are selling, we had one that was a $700,000 property sold $60,000 over the asking price. Because it was priced strategically. The listing agent had intended to create multiple offers. We had 7 offers, I think, on that property. And so understand fair market value. Don't just go off the asking price. Call the listing agent, ask probing questions, find out if there's any other offers if you're in multiple, then do the CMA, and then have that conversation with your buyer about what price are you willing to lose this property.
Exactly.
Right? That's, I think, the most powerful conversation, because then it's their choice.
Yeah. They know they put their best foot forward. If they didn't get it, wasn't meant to be, move on, right?
Okay.
That's great. And then a couple other quick things is just make your offer clean, right? So don't put any unnecessary conditions or terms in there. The cleaner it can be, the easier it is to get yours accepted. So, if you have to have a home inspection condition and you can't sneak your home inspector in before you make the offer, right? Then have a home inspection condition. If you have to have a financing condition, because worst case scenario, your clients couldn't pay cash for it, then have a financing condition, right? Like, be mindful of it, but educate your clients. And if you can have an unconditional offer, that's going to look very attractive to a seller.
And I think in a lot of times the best ways to discuss that, and a lot of agents are apprehensive, I think, to advise to do unconditional. But at the end of the day, our job is to provide options to the buyer and let them know how to win, like set them up to win.
Absolutely.
And so what I always look at is there's a certain dollar amount typically attached to the risks, right? And so if you're willing, if you get it at this price, are you okay if you end up having to pay 10 or 20 grand of, a new roof happens or a furnace needs to be replaced? You're kind of okay with that. And so, in a heated market, don't be afraid to make unconditional offers, I guess is what it comes down to in the right properties. And with sellers, it's something to discuss, and as part of the strategy is get it pre-inspected, right? Have the property in the report available digitally or available at the home. And so you're really setting the buyer up to be able to make an informed decision. Condo Docs is another one for condos. When we used to do project marketing and then sell projects out, we would pre-launch the project, have like kind of coming soon exclusive listings first, because we had a really big database of buyers. They had a 2-week window to make offers. We would often sell half the project in that time. But we had all the condo documents fully available with the seller's consent for like available download on our website.
The real property report with compliance
so
letter
like-
from the city.
Pre-anticipate, answer all their concerns and questions, make it a good, clean property for sale, and then provide that information to the buyer. And I think the other big one is like with clean offers is looking at every component of that in terms of how the seller is going to view it. So what we see a lot these days is buyers saying, well, we would have paid that price.
Yeah.
Well, then why didn't you pay that price?
Yeah.
Is the
Well, they didn't even counter us. Yeah. They went with the other one.
Yeah. And so set your buyer up for success. Bring your best foot forward always with an offer. And when appropriate, look at presenting in person to kind of really sell the client.
And I think setting expectations with your buyer is super important. You may not get a counter offer. You may not have another shot at it.
Totally.
Right? So.
Yeah, and that's the difference. If it's been on the market, I think another one is time on market.
Sure.
Sure, to set expectations. So if it's been on the market 2 days and you're bringing an offer $50,000 below the asking price, probably not going to even get a response from that seller. They've priced it. If they wanted to sell it 50 grand less, they probably would have priced it 50 grand less.
Yeah.
And if they're getting lots of showings, but if it's been on the market for a year and it hasn't sold, then sure, is there more flexibility there? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Last but not least, make sure your offer is actually received. I know this seems a little obvious, but it's quite often we hear about buyer's agents emailing offers without contacting the listing agent, and a week later they find it in their junk mail. So make sure your offer is actually received. Standard protocol, before even making the offer, you should be calling before presenting and sending your offer, because you have to find out if there's other offers. Are you in a multiple?
Especially as things are busier, things are going pending last night but haven't been reported, or the information.
Exactly. It's all point in time. So call the listing agent. If they don't, then follow up with a text. Try to make sure you have an actual conversation with them before sending your offer. Confirm where and how they'd like you to send the offer. If you're sending it on email, have a professional email signature on your email that confirms you're a realtor and what brokerage you work with. I mean, these are basics with RECA, but requirements, but we see it a lot with a lot of part-time agents and things like that in the market. So nobody knows how long you've been in the business, and no one knows how many deals you do a year until you don't present professionally. Then they're going to ask those questions. So make sure that your offer is actually received, you're doing the job to represent your buyer, and your offer gets communicated and actually presented.
Yeah, so hope this answers some of your questions, and feel free to keep sending them our way, and we'll hopefully add some value to you.
Yeah, and feel free to comment other questions or concerns or successful strategies you have used to win in multiple offers. Comment below with that.
Great.
And as always, subscribe to the channel for more valuable information.